Y'all, Devin told me I don't know what he's got up his sleeve, but we about to see.
So I'm going to give you something that happened. I I'm gonna just say it, and I want you to go with what's the first thing in my heart.
Okay.
My prayers changed from being specific to saying, God, let your will be done, and help me to understand it.
Same boat. You put a camera in my room? Literally the same boat. But are you what question are you asking me within that? How do we handle it?
So I give you the reason why it changed.
Okay.
When I was 15, my nephew died,
Mhm.
and I was praying really, really hard that he wouldn't die
Mhm.
because he's a baby.
Got you.
And so, to keep myself from being devastated because he didn't hear my prayer, I changed the prayer from something being very specific to let his will be done in the situation and help me to understand it.
I think that's one of the hardest prayers to pray because a lot of things, yes, are incorporated in prayer, but one of the main things would be for us to be heard by God, our requests to be, made known to Him. And I'm going to be honest with you, to communicate what I want. Like, I know God knows what I want, but I want to tell you, this is what I want, this is how I want it. And as much as we say, God, if it's in your will, let it be done, but realizing that it's in His and not yours, now it's like, sometimes we can look at God and be like, there have been times where I've prayed for things and been like, God, how could you? Like, oh, the nerve of God, the audacity of you, God, to not in our human head, the audacity of you or the nerve of you, God, to not hear me. When you know that's the complete opposite. But our human capacity can't understand it. If in church and all we're communicated of the plethora of things that God wants what's best for you, all things work together, all of these great things about answered prayers and miracles, and then we go and pray for a miracle to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and it's like, God, why? Why you do me like that? And I think that's a chance to show how the request and the response is a reflection of our heart posture, because it reveals that both, honestly, in a sense, we're selfish. Even if it's with good intent, which is why I say it's such a hard prayer to pray, because I've just now learned in recent months the true meaning of the combination of, you don't know now what I'm doing, but someday you will, and not my will, but your will being done. Because we really underestimate how hard it is to understand that. If God's way of thinking supersedes ours, how can we think if we pray for something and we don't get it? How do we understand that? How do we fathom that? It's mind-boggling. And yes, it shows how great we are, but I also believe it's really a chance for us to be humble. And to evaluate, while I do believe it's important to articulate your request to God, we also need to be aware of if we're having a selfish heart posture. And when we're asking for understanding, hear me out if we're ready for it. Because there have been a lot of times where I have prayed just for, God, help me to see it the way you see it. and he'll mess around and show me, and I'm like, you know how you try to how you try to fit stuff in how you want it, and God saying 2 + 2 = 4, but you see that 5 and you trying to work that extra one in. Like, are you really ready to understand it how he's meant for you to understand it? Yeah. That's been a hard prayer for me, because when you have to submit and say, yes, I want these things, yes, I want this to happen, and I want it to be this way, even with you in the case of your nephew, like, I want him to still be here. And then God says, like, a hard no, like a gut wrenching no. And you asking me to understand that? Now I got to humble myself. Yeah. So I think it's a moment for us to check our heart posture, and to not just ask for the understanding, but to first ask for the capability and the wherewithal to understand what having a supernatural understanding for the sake of our prayers means for our relationship with God.
Your obedience does not trigger a God response.
Fact. Your obedience does not trigger a God response, even a godly response. Because now I'm pissed. See, y'all don't want to be honest. I'm gonna be honest. God be telling me to do some stuff, and I be like, I want to be like, no. I want to be like, no. I don't want to do it. Please get somebody else to do it. Why would you even consider me? I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. But we try to make it seem like obedience is. I do not want to do that.
The thing is, we think obedience is tied to a gift.
We think obedience is self-serving. Far from it. Far from it. I think that's why we get so upset when it doesn't like align with what we want. Yeah. Obedience has been my theme for the past 7 months. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. You want me to do that here now? And I told you that I want this here and that way. What makes you think I want to do that? And then he'd be like, and I'd be like, okay. Listen, obedience is triggering. It's very triggering. Because now I have to ask myself, what part of me made you think that I was able to handle this? Because I think I can't, but you say I can. So now I'm asking who's telling the truth. Because one of us isn't right. And it's me. It causes how do I want to say it? Give me a second. My words are catching up with my brain. Obedience reveals the same parts of us. I'm trying to say that our obedience reveals this, like reveals our traumas and capabilities, insecurities, and it fears, yeah. It reveals all of that. Because when I'm asked to, and I just think too, obedience is one of those things that we ask for it so much, but when it comes down to it, it's like, I don't think we understand the full gist of what it is. And oftentimes I believe obedience leads to that type of response because it's requiring something greater out of us that we can't see at that time. And because I was going to say obedience is often something that we don't want to do because we haven't seen the part of us that's the part of us that's been molded to what the obedience is for. Like if obedience is always for if obedience isn't self-serving, come on brain. If obedience isn't slow down. If obedience isn't self-serving, scratch it. When obedience is self-serving, it's never for your present self. And we don't see that. Because it's like, how do you want me to do this? Why do you want me to do this now? Because it's always in reference to listening to God, submitting to him, but also him knowing what's best for us and understanding that this obedience is not for this present moment. This obedience is for where I'm trying to take you, because you're going to have to be obedient then. And so how are you going to handle it? I'm trying to teach you how to do it when you don't want to do it. Because if you don't want to do it now, for where I'm about to take you, you definitely not going to want to do it. So I need you to see that. I need you to push through right here, because trust me, you may not want to do it then. But you have this season of obedience as a reference to the future one. Because don't think just because you listening to God now, he going to stop asking you to be obedient. To whom much is given, much is required. Yeah, I frequently make the stank face at God. Ooh, my mascara. That was great. Because I feel like obedience is one of the things that we put a glaze on. I say that because I'm donuts. But we often just cover it up and make it seem like it's just a beautiful experience. For me, it's the result of it has been a great experience. But in the midst of being asked to do it by God, I don't, no. You see my eyebrow? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And it's hard because I can be stubborn. Ooh, and don't be impatient and have to be obedient. Let me cut the camera off. Don't be patient and don't be impatient and have to be obedient. Call that PO. Call that PO. Oof.
How do you push forward in a space you know you're supposed to be, but you're tired of the space?
How do you push forward in a space that you know you're supposed to be in, but you're tired of said space? I think that goes back to obedience. Because is said space we're talking about purposeful?
Yes.
Okay.
It's life-changing for others.
Okay. But at times tiresome for the person who has the responsibility of it. Yeah. I really think it comes down to obedience. Because me being obedient doesn't always mean I want to do it or endure it. Because me being obedient isn't me happy to go jolly into my purpose every day. But I guess you can find peace in knowing that you were meant to do it. And that it's not even a roadblock, but it comes with the territory and requires praying for revitalization. Because it's not going to always, I don't think, sometimes we can, I don't want to say taint the ins and out and out of what purpose is, but sometimes we make it seem like when we're operating in God's purpose that it's all roses and rainbows. Because every day isn't gonna be easy, and every day, sometimes, or I'll say this too, when you know you have a purpose, all God-given purposes generally do this, but when you're cognizant of the fact that your purpose in particular is heightened around servanthood, it also comes with the potential to often be, not often, at times to be drained and to become tired of it, because you're pouring so much of yourself out into it, and it's not always I guess reciprocated just because of the nature of what it is you're doing. And I think when we understand that purpose, I'll say it, purpose, operating in your purpose can be tiresome at times, but I think that tiresome is an indication of what to pray for, and also an indication that a shift within the purpose needs to be prayed for, or just a new way of doing it should be prayed for, and being obedient to the purpose God has given you. Because it can be tiring, and especially when you know it is a responsibility that's been given to you. That's a great question. And I say that I'm thinking about it from a creative standpoint, because you have to constantly be creative, constantly find new ways to do this and to keep up with how things are being done. And it's so much at once to where it's like, I just need everything to pause for a little minute so I can catch up. And then for me, it's like, can I really do this? So that, and then just the constant keeping up, not necessarily with what everybody is doing, but just being in an industry that changes so fast every day can be tiresome. But yeah, I think obedience comes with that, and just being prayerful. And it also shows that just the deeper dependence that you need to have in God too, with what he's giving you, because he's the only one who knows the intricate parts of how it needs to be done in each season of you operating in your purpose. So all of that culminated into one.